Welcome back, fake internet friends, and let's not halt our RSD discussion. In our last two episodes, we talked about relationship patterns and the difficulty of simply outgrowing low self-esteem, aka rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Taking both of these together, there are a few more relational mysteries that we can start to better comprehend. RSD might help explain subtle family rejections that no one else picks up on or understands, the intensity of stonewalling damages in relationships, and intimate partner or friendship slights and cycles of rejection that could be labeled some dramatic shit. All of which keep us trapped in RSD influenced behavioral patterns that might be difficult to understand from the outside. And to be fair, same from the inside, causing shame, blame, guilt, and continually degraded confidence, as well as making us think perhaps we are always the problem. So let's talk, starting from the top. Why do we react so strongly to our families when the people around us can't identify the same problems? Of course, there's our entire history, which is extremely triggering. But on top of that, the stereotypical mothers and daughters shrug slash non-explanation for our challenging relationships. How everything she does is a personal slight to her female offspring that no one else can seem to perceive, and therefore it must not be real. It must be something that you, assumedly the daughter, can just not pay attention to, right? Maybe not. Because this back and forth relationship dissatisfaction is based on subtle signs of rejections. We're primed to be on the lookout for them for every reason already discussed. And then mother was generally our entire sense of safety as a small child. We've been called the problem since that point, and we're not allowed to be separate from her perceptually, oftentimes. This lack of boundaries creates extra criticism for any sign of differentiation from mother. And so, when we try our best to have an adult relationship with her and find her still often covertly trashing us in old and new ways, we often explode because she's actually lighting several explosive wicks at once, triggering our personal history of rejections from her and the generalized pervading sense of wrongness that has plagued us ever since. Now, the same goes for all other family members, and especially when they're all ganging up together. Probably again returning to the "you're just too sensitive" narrative as they protect themselves as the in-group through mutually chosen ignorance and scapegoating. This is part of the reason why our modern friends and partners chide us for scrapping with the family or reacting strongly to what seems like nothing to them. They don't know the history of rejection, how it was used against us, how it's been a gaping psychic wound that we've been trying to stitch for decades in the rest of our endeavors, only for these asshats to rip out those threads the moment we're in communication. And they don't know the subtle signs of rejection that we were taught to be on the lookout for. To them, it might appear as nothing. Next point. Stonewalling damages. Why does ghosting, stonewalling, and other refusal to engage hurt so bad with RSD? Because it's all forms of passive aggression and covert rejection. Sure, they aren't doing anything, and that is the point. Every interaction is an opportunity to accept or reject another person. And words are not necessary. A non-response to an attempt at engagement from another person is one of the earliest and most easily gaslightable signs of resentment or contempt. As in, what? I just didn't hear you. Did you say something? Oh, don't take it personally. I was just whatever. It is a rejection not to respond to someone when they make an energetic outreach. It's refusing to meet them halfway, to toss the ball back to their open hands. And that's why we can respond to it harshly, while onlookers might easily dismiss it or justify it away as no big deal. Stonewalling and ghosting are expressly forms of denying the other party your time and energy. Rejection without saying anything. That is the entire point. To let them know they aren't even worth your breath or your typed words. That is how deeply the rejection runs. But again, especially from the outside, it is easy to miss the abuse element and settle for excuses, since an absence of behavior is difficult to find as damning or definite. Next point. Intimate partner and friendship slights and cycles of rejection that no one else seems to see. In close romantic and other intimate forms of relationship, like best friendships, which are often subconscious attempts at healing the wounds our families have created, so both carry extreme importance. Rejection is a highly visceral and upsetting experience. These people essentially are our new families for all intents and purposes. They're the social systems that we orient around, and therefore we do react to perceived rejections as strongly as we may have when we were kids within the family home and ever since. Back then, we weren't allowed to respond, though, and perhaps we feel more empowered to speak up now. And perhaps we have a lifetime of being so fucking sick of this treatment that the way we speak up is a bit over the top for the current situation at hand, as that aforementioned mountain of prior rejection experiences comes avalanching down on our emotional worlds, which, in and of itself, reacting very strongly when others aren't expecting it, can become a new reason for rejection. People pull back in response, and this can be the self-sabotaging, self-fulfilling consequence that we accidentally set ourselves up for. Alternatively, perhaps we still fear bringing up our too sensitive nature, and instead of reacting outwardly, we turn it in on ourselves, internalizing our non-response and punishing ourselves because that is safe compared to speaking or complaining aloud to another person. Then this self-punishment and resulting withdrawal could be the reason for a relationship to dissipate, again appearing to be the rejection that we were trying to avoid and creating the events that we were trying hardest not to relive. If partnership feels extra dangerous, tumultuous, reactive, and likely to create rounds of self-scorn, if you fear that you're also too sensitive for the other adults you've come to know deeply, that rejection history and resulting vigilance can be the culprit. P.S. It's not up to them to never trigger you. It's up to each of us to work through our perceptions of rejection and find out if they are accurate or not. If they are, we then have to set boundaries and find new relationships. In doing so, I encourage anyone to be mindful that what feels like home doesn't necessarily mean good things. It might mean never growing due to the limitations of the environments that reflect what we've already been tortured by. So a brain never gets the evidence that it needs that you are allowed to be you and to be accepted for it. And thus, a fucker continues to live out of the same mindset as their family of origin, demanded. So Remember, with RSD, exposure therapy is near impossible because we're primed to detect experiences that mimic what we've been through in the past, and this can create false evidence of our unworthiness. We tend to self validate that our experiences are unquestionable proof of our abuse derived beliefs and behaviors based on the multiple experiences that seem to be external, unrelated events, when in fact, the situation is probably being created from unhealed wounds on the inside over and over again. In this way, history appears to validate present reality and vice versa. So we become acutely keyed into continued signs of rejection, ones that can be nuanced and covert, highly personal, and impossible to detect from the outside, that we might be shamed for. When other people know exactly what our hot button issues are, they can press them without other people being able to see the tiny movement. Some of these patterns include subtle family rejections no one else can understand, devastation from stonewalling or assumed rejection through non responses, an intimate partner slash friendship slights and cycles of rejection that you may know are valid rejections that are easily labeled as undue pot stirrings from other people. All of these things prohibit recovery as they falsely cement the messages of our early experiences as unquestionable truths about our place in relationships and the larger world, stranding us in perspectives that reiterate time and time again how little we matter, what burdens we are, how innately incorrect we were born, and stopping us from ever fully recovering from complex trauma. If this episode has made you think, give it a like, a share, a comment. It helps me know that the words and I are being accepted. Thank you, friends. And we'll return here to talk about environments of rejection, the outcome we've been building up to in this CPTSD by RSD conversation, the pervasive, persistent loss of self confidence, self acceptance, and self identity that results from all of it. Can't wait to have another depressing conversation with you as we investigate what might be holding us back from slightly brighter skies. I'll see you then. And until we meet back here, cheers, fuckers. Take care of your damn selves. Bye bye.